Testing my mic out here. Thank
Good
you.
idea. So, folks, we're live on YouTube. I think sometimes there's a slight delay, and we should be live on Facebook too. So, if you're joining us on YouTube, preferably, then yeah, make sure to say hi in the chat box. Otherwise, I don't know who's there. Uh,
Hi, I'm
and
AJ.
same thing on Facebook. And hello, AJ. And I got my Learn Power BI class on the phone with me. That is so cool. So, guys, I said in the email, um, and I'll say again that you can of course ask me questions, but you can also kind of chime in. And I certainly don't claim to know everything about Power BI. So by all means, kind of help me with the answers, or if you have thoughts and opinions about the stuff. So okay, so we're doing good there. So let's start with folks on the phone. If you Well, you know what? Let me quickly update on the MVP summit. So this whole week, I was at the MVP summit, and it was pretty intense. Certainly, they treat you really nice. They treat you pretty royally. So this is the big celebration of all the MVPs from all over the world. And I know there are only about 100 or so Power BI MVPs, but the bigger MVP community, I'm sure it's in thousands. And of course, not everybody makes it to Seattle, but short of airfare, pretty much they cover everything, and they definitely feed you well. Oh my gosh, there was a lot of food. And yeah, this is our chance to connect directly with the Microsoft team, ask some questions, and yeah, just get a hold of them just face to face. So that's pretty amazing. And the Microsoft team also lays out in a lot of detail the plan that's coming for the future. And this was by far the best feature that MVPs like, is a lot of times they would just say, "Hey guys, we're thinking about doing it this way or that way. What do you think? Just raise your hand." And yeah, so I mean, you don't get more influence on the product than that. So that's pretty amazing. And yeah, I had a pretty cool takeaways from that, from all of that, from the whole experience. Of course, meeting these other inspired professionals inspires you as well. You can't help that. Okay, so that's it. So let's see. Samuel is on YouTube. Samuel, I think you're in my class, right? So you can. So folks in my class, you can join in. There should be a web conference link that should have been sent out, so you can join me there live. Nazimudun says hi. Stephen Coppola says greetings from Ohio. So hello and welcome, my friends. So yeah. My Learn Power BI fam. Let's go to you. So I have AJ, Tyrone, Della, James, and Nelson. I don't think I missed anybody. If you have any questions, why don't we start off with you guys? First chance. I know it's hard to be the first one. Okay.
Hi,
Yeah.
hi, Avi. Myself, AJ. I have a question. Uh, I have typically a question about the resource planning mainly,
Okay.
where I have a challenge of multiple teams. Okay, like
Yeah.
for the resource for the project, where we have in a vertically on a column wise months. Okay, like
Yeah.
Jan to December.
Yeah. Got
My
it.
requirement is how do I correlate when I have a standard rate in other sheet uh, to give a like calculation in an easy way. I'm not much good in DAX. I'm trying to learn.
Okay.
So
We
can
all
you
are.
please help me with that?
Yeah. Okay.
Give an example so that it'll help.
Yeah. Hello to Mark and Alan who are online. So folks, we're taking AJ's questions. So AJ, let me see. So I often do that. I kind of sketch my problem in Excel just because it's
Yeah,
easy. So
yeah.
so I got Jan, Feb. Is it gonna extend based on that? Hopefully. Ooh, I was gonna check the audio. Okay, that looks great. Let's just go to December, shall we? And do you have something on rows, right? Tell me what you have on rows.
Yeah, just put my name and below my name some 10 projects just
Oh,
for an
projects.
example.
Okay, okay.
Okay,
A, project B, and so forth.
so on, right? And
Okay,
in the month of January, you can just put uh, 10%, say for something like that,
okay.
10%.
Got it.
So I have another tab where similar format, and I have
Mm-hmm.
a standard rate for each month.
Got it. Okay, so I'll put it right here just so we
Yeah,
can
yeah.
see it.
And say just
Standard
put
rate.
$53, $100 per hour.
Yeah, I like round figures. General, so we'll say. Okay, got it.
Okay. So how do so when I do a Power BI reporting, these
Mm-hmm.
two are independent sheet. Okay.
Okay.
Like AJ, there are 10 teams. Okay. I'm one of the team member like that. So how
Yeah.
do I make a relation or a DAX or a formula where I can show my budget as an LT, like latest thinking forecast, as well as at the bigger level, the dashboard, what will be overall project funding. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind
Got
of
it.
like trying to play around, but I'm stuck.
Yeah.
So I thought that this is the best time to ask.
All right. Yeah, great. So tell me what that 10% represents.
10% represents the effort which I'm going to put on project A.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
So,
Similarly, sorry to disturb you,
no, no.
in the month of January, there, let's say 168 hours, 8 hours a day. So if a 10% of 168 hours, right?
Yeah,
So that's what my plan on project A.
yeah.
So similarly, I'll make up something like 10 different projects to reach to the resource planning 100% correct.
Got it, got it. Okay, yeah. So this is good. We can. So you will hear me say this a few times. Human learning comes before machine learning, and the thing is, the challenge is we may not realize it this way, but we are smart. I mean, it does. It may seem like, gosh, I'm not as smart as Dax, but it is the other way around. You're way smarter than
Okay.
Dax, and we can think in intuitive leaps. Dax cannot. So you actually, the problem is opposite. The problem is to dumb yourself down and break it down into steps. Let's just do it with 6 projects. So let's say your time is going to be divided between that. Fair enough? 30-50%, I will say 25 and 15 and 10. Did I add up? Oh, oops.
110, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
fair enough. So am I kind of doing it right? You would have some
true,
allocation of your projects,
Absolutely, absolutely.
and this would this be a standard rate by project or
No, this is
just by the person?
common by just
Got it.
overall,
Okay.
but the resource will have, let's say, there is some activity type, or there is a contract full time or something like that.
Okay. Okay. So there might be more details, but for now, let's
Yeah,
simplify it and let's see
yeah,
if we can
yeah,
solve
yeah,
it at this level.
yeah,
And we can say something like this.
yeah,
And then what I would do. So I'm gonna ask you once I say what I think I'll do, is that let's how do we do this? I'm gonna ignore February for now. So I'll say so first of all, let's assume that every month has the same number of hours for now. Again, we can change
yeah,
that, but let's
yeah,
just go
yeah.
with 160.
Hmm.
So I'll say, well, this times this, right? And times this one. And this one is one of those dollar signs, right? So, and let's do this. Oops, something that didn't work right. B16. And what is this? Oh, okay, got it. I need to lock this one to B2. $B, $2. Let's just go with that. So let's check this guy. So this one is saying 10% of 160 times the rate. Sounds right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
then we'll have some of
Yeah,
this, and we'll calculate it for each person,
each person,
and
each month. Yeah,
then we'll know that, right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, got it. Let's see how far we can go with this. So let's say I'm thinking. So we need tables. And how is this data, by the way, coming in? Is it kind of maintained by hand, and that would be okay? So somebody is actually keeping the sheet updated.
Currently that is a challenge for me in terms of my work.
Yeah,
Everybody is handling in a different way. I want to get them into
standardize it.
one pool to
Yep.
make it standardized.
Yeah.
Every year I face this problem in terms of budgeting and all those things.
Gosh, yeah. Tell me about it.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
I just want to solve this problem
yeah.
just by learning Power BI. To be
Yeah.
frank, I really love it.
Absolutely. So we're gonna stable data entry for now because I have a whole bunch of thoughts around that, and for now we'll not talk about it. I'll just do whatever is gonna be fastest for me to get to the DAX, and then we can come back and talk about data entry. Uh, so I'm wondering. So again, sometimes when I solve a problem, I solve it kind of in steps. So for one, let's do this. Let's do this. So we're gonna say. So we're gonna say person and project. Ooh, this is gonna be cool. And we're gonna make it a table. Let's save it to the Talk Power BI folder. And folks, I have promised you that I need to share this link with everybody. So we do that inside the class, where every Thursday call, the files are easily accessible to the class, which makes sense. But I'm gonna also share this folder. So this one is for AJ budgeting. Okay, and so we have June, project, and Jan, and for a little bit, I'm not gonna care about. Let's see how this works. Percentage. Oh, perfect. I'm not gonna care about whether it's adding up to 100 or not. Actually, this looks silly. Let's do 5, something like that. Okay, good. And actually, we can do this. So you can. Okay, good. So we got this table, and now let's make another table with standard rates. So person, and again, I realize that you have a task, but for now we'll simplify it. So we'll say AJ task consulting rate 100. Hey, while we're here, why not give you 100? Oh, okay, 100 is good, round number. And James, John. Okay, so 150. Okay, format is table, Okay, so we're looking good here. We got the rate, and I think that's all we need. Let's pop over to Power BI. So folks, oh boy, somebody's causing some mischief on the YouTube. Come on, guys. I mean, you know, I'll have to bump you out. Hold on, let's see. Let me take care of that really quick. Where is it? Hey, if you're on the phone and you're not talking, just go on mute. Live streaming. Okay, my friend, how do I? Okay. All right. Okay, took care of that, I think. Perfect. Let's go to Power BI desktop. And we're gonna put this data in. And let's go to queries mode. You know what? Might as well save this file before we even start. Top Power BI files. 6180309 AJ. You gotta wait for the good stuff, my friends. Where did my query editor go? So obviously you're not going to enter data. You're going to connect it to your Excel sheet somehow. But for now,
True.
we'll just use this. So we'll call it, I don't know what to call it, distribution, R's? What's a good name for this one where we're seeing allocation?
Resource assignment.
Say again?
Resource assignment.
Got it. Okay. Resource. And my friends laugh at me. I am a habitual, I avoid spaces because I started my work in US at least at Lucent and working on a Unix system, and yeah, spaces were kind of hard to handle. So you would see me doing underscores everywhere, and my friends are like, Avi, it's all right to use spaces now, but I can't. Resource, I can't help myself. I generally talk about how you should use things that make sense to the end user, and underscore probably does. Okay, so we got this, and this one is clean for now. We don't need to do anything. Resource assignment, this one, and again, depending on the format it's coming in, I think if it is coming in this format, the only thing that I would do is fill down, of course. So we'll say, where is fill down? Transform. Oh, there should be a search button for that. You know how Excel has that? This guy. Tell me what you want to do. That would be so cool for Power BI. So I'm looking for fill. Ah, there it is. Fill down. There's so much good stuff packed in here. Sometimes. Oh wait, did that? That didn't work. That didn't work, and this was a problem with one of my students as well, because this cell is maybe not empty. How do we replace it? Perfect. Okay, that worked. And now I think fill down should work. Let's try that again. Fill down. Perfect. So now we have that. Okay, I don't know why it got percentage there. That's kind of weird. Oh, that's just data type. Got it. Got it. So what we're gonna do now is unpivot, because this is kind of a little weird shape. So having data spread out in columns is typically problematic for machines, not for humans. So we're gonna say keep these columns and unpivot other columns. I'm going to keep an eye out on chat. So folks who are waiting, this is the order we're going to go in. We are working on a question now, and next I'll kind of go on YouTube, and or actually maybe we'll go on YouTube for your comments, and then if you pre-submitted questions in Talk Power BI and are present, we'll go through that, and yeah, we'll work through that list. Okay, so this looks really good. I like that. But what do we need now? So I called my query editor my kitchen. That's where I clean shape transform. But this is not the place to do your calculations. That's DAX. So I'm thinking at what point I need to stop. So we need to let me look at my Excel formula. So I need it multiplied this by this by this. Got it. So each project give me. Got it. I do feel like I need some lookup tables, project and person. Let's make them from here for now. So I'm gonna say reference, and it's a good interview question, my friend. What's the difference between reference and duplicate? I mean, if you know, it's like duh, that's obvious, but not to everybody. So we'll say person. Let's do that. So person. And again, in a small set, sometimes you can get away without having a lookup table, but not in a bigger data set. So it's just not a bad idea to start with that. So let's, we got person, and I feel like project is another entity. So let's again do reference, and we're going to say project. And let's put one other person there, because that's going to make it a little more interesting. So I'm going to go back here and maybe James. and I'll just say the same thing. Let's try that. Oops. And if I go back here, maybe let me just grab this data. Person, and this one was project. Okay, fair enough. Let's load it up and see how that would work. Ooh, and of course data table at the bottom. And I usually don't like it creating relationships for me, but we'll see how that works. Person, yeah. Okay, perfect. So this is good. What are we gonna do? We're gonna do, for each person, figure out the rate first, and then go through this. Okay, got it, got it. Each person, figure out the rate. I'm not sure if it needs to be bidirectional. So by default, I use single direction. Isn't valid. The filter direction one many, resource rate many to one. By default, I like to keep a single direction. Bidirectional should only be for exceptions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a screenshot of this and put it on my second monitor. That kind of orients me. So Mark, you're in my course. Yeah, so if you're in my course, it should have been an email that went out this morning with the link, and it's also inside the course. Search for, so if you go in the course and search for Talk Power BI, look for this lesson, and that has the link you can use to join. All right, so I got the diagram. So guys, I mean, yeah, I mean, you see what I'm doing here, what I talked about earlier, the human learning comes before machine learning. I'm essentially breaking down the problem in small steps, and you can call my approach, I'm definitely the turtle when it comes to kind of Power BI and DAX, but I think that has helped me steady progress, and I think it helps others because they see kind of the thought process that goes in there too. Okay, so I have my diagram here, and let me just put, maybe by person, I want to figure out the rate first. So again, I break it down like really small steps and then go from there. And then this is, let's go values, and let's make it a little bigger. Maybe even bigger. Perfect. Kilometers. Okay, and what is the rate? Let's try that. Okay, got it. So we don't have one person in there. That's okay. But in here, I think I need a measure. So I'll say per, oh, is that working? Rate equals selected value. This is a new function. There was a roundabout way of doing the same thing. Earlier, you had to check has one value, all of that sort of stuff. But now you can say resource rate. Do we have rate? Oh, there we go. Resource rate.
We might have a category also there, right? Like whether it is consulting or hourly,
Yeah,
full
we're
time.
gonna. I'm probably not gonna solve for that right now, but you'll get the
Okay.
idea. I mean, once we have
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
So person resource rate. Let's do this. And yeah, that's the same, but now it's a measure. Great. So I have that. I have, hey, this person has this rate. And now if I say for resource assignment, show me the person, the project. Oops. I'm going to copy this one. So show me the person, the project. What happened there? Person, the project, and value. This is percentage. Do not summarize. Percentage. Oh, by month. Let's just so again, I mean, when I'm solving for it, I kind of simplify it. So we'll worry about month later. And month is often best handled using a calendar table, which I didn't bring it in. So we'll just say January for now. Okay, got it. So January we have this one. So we have the value, the allocation, and what else do we need? And we have the person rate, which didn't work. Why? Because the person rate is in this table. So got it. So you see, so the filter is coming in from here, and filters by default, obviously, by default I keep the one direction. They're filtering this way. It's not going the opposite way, but I do need them to go the opposite way. So I'm just going to change it to bidirectional. See how that works. So and I come back here and boom, oh boy, right? So this wasn't working earlier. So you see my earlier point about by default, everything I keep one directional, then only for when I see that I need it, do I put this one. So let me just cross check. 100, AJ is 100, and yep, AJ is showing us 100 here, James is 50 here. Perfect. So now it becomes kind of an Excel problem, but notice that I'm not using calculated column. That's the general tendency of Excel users to use, but yeah, measures are so much more powerful. So I'm using measures. So person rate is a measure, and I'm going to define one more, which is I'm not sure what to call it. Let's call it amount, projected amount. Let's just say amount. And I wonder if we should get fancy and do monthly rate. Let's just do a variable for now. So we'll worry about this stuff later. So month hours, let's say all months have 160 hours. And how do I expand it? Oh, better. And then I want to return, got it, value. I think I need selected value too. Or okay, so I'm gonna kind of take a shortcut, and we can come back and we see if we need to optimize it. But I'm gonna say so I really need an x function. I think I need some x. So some x, and I'll go resource assignment, and then I'll say value, resource assignment value. So that's 10% multiplied by month hours. So 160 total hours, and then I say I'm 10%, that's 16 hours multiplied by rate. And what is my person rate? So notice in autocomplete it puts the table name in front. The best practice recommended by me and really any other Power BI expert is that when you use measures, you don't use the table name. So this makes sense, essentially kind of replicating what we did in Excel, but of course in a smarter manner. So let's see how that works. So yeah, where, what is it, amount. So I'm going to move this first to resource assignment. And let's try amount here. Oh, did that work? Okay, let's do some math. I mean, this looks right, this looks right. And sometimes the total doesn't add up. So of course, if you're doing it in Excel, it's much easier to see that. But in here, I just want to make sure. So I'm gonna open it, export the data, and just double check that. Data.csv. Oh gosh, data, text to columns. Oh gosh. If I add that, yep, that's 29,600. So it is adding up. So I think I'll stop there, but I'll give you pointers to what else you would need to do. So let's talk about the stuff that we didn't actually cover. And there's it's interesting because this is a simple problem, right? But clearly this is hard, and you've experienced it yourself that it's hard. But yeah, I mean, so there are a few more steps. So first of all, let me grab a good character. Hold on one second, guys. Amarella's on. Hello. Master QuickBooks from Ireland was trying to help me earlier. Perfect. Great to have you guys. Thanks so much for joining. So first thing, did that work? Oh, yeah, that did work. And let's make it bigger. Is the task type, right? And so what's going to happen is that in the resource rate, you're also going to have task, and that's interesting. So person, task, and they can have different tasks. Let's go to relationships view again, and there's going to be another task type here. Person task. Boy, that's interesting. I'm thinking about how would it change the lookup table. Well, yeah. So of course, one option is, yeah, I'm not too keen to jump on it, but it's definitely viable. Which is you use Power Query, the query editor, essentially to merge these two tables. I know that is going to make the DAX a whole lot easier. So you can merge based on person task, and of course that's inside the course, and you would bring in kind of the task rate. So that way that'll make things easier. So that's one thing you need to handle. The other one is of course the date dimension. For that, obviously you need to create a calendar table. So AJ, what else did we miss? Something that we, oh, the hours in the month, right?
Right.
So
right.
that may actually come from calendar table. So I'm imagining a calendar table which has kind of working hours. So for every day it says, yep, if it's Monday to Friday and not a holiday, it is 8 hours or something like that, and then it adds it up. So hours in the month. I think that's best, I would say, from calendar. Okay, so you're gonna have access to this file. Hopefully this gives you kind of enough direction to proceed on this.
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Woo! All right, guys, that was a heavy hitter. Let's how do I do this? Let's see. Okay, Steve is here. Steve, I'm trying to read your comment. It's unfortunately... Oh, okay, there we go. I can pop it out. Custom account. Okay, got it. So Steve, let me see if there are any quick questions there, and then we're gonna come back to your file. So let's go to my friends on YouTube. Hello to Aaron, Josh Hankowicz, and if I missed your name earlier, feel free to say hi again. And if you, I didn't see any questions. Somebody was very insistent on teaching us Arabic earlier. I think they're booted out now. Peter Wester from Denmark. So a lot of folks. Hey, I don't see any questions. Okay, actually I do see a question. Master QuickBooks Ireland. Hello and welcome. I'm very interested in what you're showing now. I have a question regarding using BI to create consolidated accounts. Oh gosh, yeah. So yeah, I messed up my intro. So Sean is asking. Let me go to my notes. Where is this guy? No, not here. So yeah, guys, I'll just take a minute. So I opened with talking about how wonderful the MVP Summit was, but and everybody who would come in from Netherlands, Germany, Australia was so inspiring to meet with all of these people. Tristan was from France, all of these amazing MVPs, and everybody had pretty much the same thing to report. Let's stick that in here. So we'll say 3330, how would Power BI fail? And I threw around a question just as kind of a joke. And I said, guys, so each one of you, I'm hearing the same thing, that Power BI is on fire. It's like growing like crazy. But how can Microsoft fail? What can happen kind of externally, or what could they do wrong, a misstep, which would cause them to fail, which would... so I asked them to imagine a future, I don't know, 5 years, maybe longer from now, where people would say, oh yeah, Power BI, remember that? Oh yeah, man, it was so hot for a year or two, and then, you know, it didn't go anywhere. And everybody laughed at me. Some had some funny things to say, like, oh yeah, if this happened, you know, and something like that. But as I went through the MVP Summit, I definitely... So here's one story that they shared, which I can share because it's not technical, which was so you've all seen the Gartner quadrant, BI, Power BI, right? Power BI has been positioning it right on their top page. So 2018 just came out. So this is old news. Sorry, there's 2018, which the position is kind of unchanged. It's about the same. Anyway, so they positioned them as leader, and that's what Gartner was communicating to Microsoft, that you guys are the leader. You are the incumbent. And Microsoft folks are saying, are you kidding me? We are the upstart. We're the new kid on the block. And right now, both of those things are true. They're the new kid on the block, but they're clearly also become the leader. So, and that got me thinking of the classic story, David versus Goliath, right? So Microsoft is in the process, if not already, that in this self-service BI realm, or maybe overall in BI realm, they are, maybe already are the Goliath. And we all know that how the Goliaths in the industry, how in the history they have been slayed by David, by the small guy. And of course, I mean, recent story, kind of Slack. There were so many business office communication players out there, but Slack kind of came in with this simple offer and just kind of cut across all of that. So I think that's certainly a risk. That's definitely going to be there. And I don't think Microsoft is there now, because they're still right now playing the game as the new kid on the block, which I love. So I think as long as they keep doing that, and it's going to get harder and harder, understandably, they may be okay. But otherwise, they open themselves up to a new challenger, which simplifies it. I mean, I will admit that even in the span of, so I saw it since it was called the Project Gemini back in 2009 to now, it's added more features, but you can also claim that that has caused it to be more complex. It's a little harder for somebody new to kind of step into that. Okay, so that's the end of my monologue there. Let's see. So sorry guys, if you let's see. Okay, so okay, now I see your question. So Alan's asking. Okay, that's a quick question. What was so QuickBooks, Mr. QuickBooks? If you had a question and you didn't go on to expand on that, now would be a great time. So Alan's asking, what do I use to draw on the screen? It's called Zoom It. You know, that's what it's called. How to hide filter selection on another filter. So good. That's a, let's see, 3715. How to hide filter selection on another filter. So yeah, that's a challenge with the online comments, that I sometimes don't have all the context. So I'll go with something and then you can tell me if I got it totally wrong. So again, the question is how to hide filter section on other filter. Well, maybe you want to filter something, but you don't want the end user to see that. So one option for that is the filter pane over here. So over on this side. So notice that I have a year filter here, but instead of that, I can add an year filter in a page level or report level and do the same thing and hide it from here. So I can keep this 2000, oops, so I want it to be 2016, and then I can delete this guy. I can do that. Actually, I'm not going to delete it. I'm going to turn it off. How about that? Can I turn it off? Yeah, slicer. So I'm going to turn it off. How cool is that? And that way they don't see it. Now, users, even if you publish the report, they can expand the filter pane and be able to see it. Now, there is a request, I believe, on ideas.powerbi.com saying that I want to stop them from doing it, because sometimes you don't want them messing around in there. That's not the case right now. Right now, they would be able to expand it and see it. Oh boy, so what other options? Of course, the option that I just showed you, where, so this is filtered to 2016. You can see the date down below. But what I did was, you can open the selection pane in the view selection pane, and here you can say, you know what, I don't want to show this element. So maybe that's what you want. And okay, I think that's good enough. I'm sure there would be other ways to do this. Power BI, at least on the visualization side, has gotten kind of crazy. I mean, crazy good in some aspects, but, well, can you call it complicated? I don't know. Yeah, so I'm sure there are other options to hide it. So Javed, hopefully that helps you with that. What else? Okay, Larry was asking, I guess rate could be different depending on the task. Yep, so we talked about that. How do we get to talk to you? I'm on YouTube. So Dick is asking that question. So the folks who are in my class, they can call in, and yeah, so they're the ones who can call in. So you can call in if you sign up for my course next time it opens. And if you go to learnpowerbi.com, you can join the early bird waitlist. Sorry, so I hope that doesn't sound like talk to the hand kind of thing, but yeah, that's what I have right now. And guys, I mean, quick story. Not a quick story, but I did this whole thing. For me, teaching Power BI is so much more about also building that community. Because guess what? The smartest person in the room right now is definitely not me. I'm sure there are smarter people than me on the call right now. But it's not a person. It's not any person. It is the room itself. Together, we're so much stronger. So I want to build a community of these Power BI rock stars. And I have to say, man, some of the students that are in the course, I see what they're doing, and they're spearheading kind of the data revolution. And I often talk about this, guys. The title is bullshit, right? You don't lead by a title, and you can't tell a leader by the title. So you could be, as I was, a business analyst, and what I did eventually pushed out the BI group on which they were spending millions of dollars. Okay, so it's an amazing set of folks. So this kind of became another chance for us to hang out. How do I calculate a cumulative? Michael is asking, how do I calculate a cumulative sum of sales per row, article, or customer? That one is easy, my friend. So let's talk about X functions. And you saw me use that. So let's go 4136. And this is Michael. Oops, how do I... Okay, how do sum of sales per row? So whenever you have this like per row, per month, or something like that, whenever you have that, I think X functions. So what X functions do, it's a family of functions. There is sum X, min X, max X, average X, standard deviation X, and most importantly, the most important member of the X family is filter. Now, I really wish filter was named filter X because that's what it is. It's an X function. And what do I mean by X function? X functions are iterators. That's a fancy word, I guess. But yeah, they go row by row. That's what they do. They go row by row. So filter, sum X, max X, min X, all of them do the same way. And so whenever I'm thinking, oh, I need to do this month by month, customer by customer, sales by sales, something like that, then X functions are your friend. So yeah, so it's sum X. It looks like if you're doing sum, then it's certainly sum X. So that's what you would do. Okay, so Albert is saying he finished the first part of the course for beginners. I believe you're talking about my YouTube course. So yeah, if you already completed that, if you click on the course link, I think it adds you to a wait list. And the course is opening right now. The best date I have is late March. So sign up for that. And yeah, thank you guys for your support and comment. So that would be the next step. And just to give you a tour, when you get in the course, the first module is the same as if you've already done it on YouTube, then you wouldn't have to repeat it, of course. You've already done that. But then I see Zero to Dashboard as it just sets the stage for everything else that's to come. So it gives you a lay of the land. So you understand later when I'm talking about something deeper, you have the bigger picture of how it fits in. Why am I doing this? If I started off in the query editor and start showing you modeling or something like that, you're like, but why am I doing this, right? So Zero to Dashboard does that, and that one is available on YouTube. But then we dive into query engine, relationships, DAX, visuals, blah, blah, blah. And guys, another thing, and anybody who's inside my course knows that I say it freely, that learning comes from doing. So the course is there, and the goal there is to really ground you in the concepts. But then I support my class. We meet kind of weekly to do Q&A. So yeah, go apply it. And I'm here to support you. Boy, you guys are typing faster than I can respond to all of you. So let's, I'm going to scroll up. Okay, so Javed has, I think he followed up on his question. Let's see how this works. Interesting. So let's go 44, 46. Javed again. So you have two page level filter, order date and sales date. If I select order date, then sales date filter should hide in the page level filter pane. Sorry, my friend, there's no control on the filter pane. There's nothing there. But you have ultimate control on well, I wouldn't say ultimate control, but you have a lot more control over here. So good. Thanks for clarifying, though, and that fits in perfectly with my AdventureWorks data set. So let's bring those in. I think I have both sales date and order date, if I can find them. Sales order, yeah, order date, ship date. Fair enough. So, oops, did that work? Yeah, so what you're suggesting, I can't think of a solution right now, but maybe somebody on the call. Folks, if you're on the phone, maybe you can help. So what Javed is asking is that if I select an order date, I don't know, drop down with search. I don't know what's the best one for this. Gosh, I think there's a selection for a single date. I wouldn't mess with that, but if we select the order date, then this filter should disappear. I can't think of anything, but yeah, I'll table that. Thank you, John, for your comments. Okay, so John is saying you often recommend starting with data modeling. I don't think I quite recommend that. So data modeling, in my mind, is an advanced topic. 52. That's John. Oh, wait. I didn't get that. Oh. Okay, so John is saying you often recommend. Got it. So first of all, I wouldn't recommend data modeling for beginners at all. I think it's just, I think you need to ease into that. And yeah, so typically the way I teach my course is that I weave data modeling into the course. So I don't explicitly talk about it. I think, yeah, I know when I was starting out, so my story is I've never read a book on data modeling. And one of my really smart mentors, Greg Weber, he's still in Microsoft. His hobby was to create robots. Kind of weird. Yeah, I think he teaches at a few universities too. So he started a book club, and we would get together every week, and nobody would read the chapter, so he would just teach us, and that's where I learned it from. But at that time, I actually didn't appreciate what he was teaching me. Only when I started applying it could I connect the dots, as Steve Jobs says. So I don't recommend. So the approach, at least I take, and I think I would recommend, is that the best way to learn is just to kind of go through Power BI. And in my course, I follow all the best principles and call out some things, like in the relationships, I would talk about data and lookup table. So I just, kind of weave it in where it's appropriate. And then in the advanced library, that's where I have really hit it hard, where then I go deep. And like, guys, kid gloves are off. Let's talk about data modeling once you've gone through the course. And then I start throwing in, kind of a little bit technical terms like grain, talking about the grain of the data and so forth. And I think that's kind of lost in beginners. Slowly changing dimensions. I mean, that just stuff is weird. I mean, who cares about that stuff? So not when you're starting your first project. So that would be my advice there. Or at least that's the approach I take in the course. Okay, appraiser basic. Okay, great. Yeah, so there was a really amazing question. Sorry, I forget your real name, but this was asked in the Talk Power BI group about the UTC timestamp. And man, I loved kind of solving that. So that's in there. Oh, good question. So I doubt John Doe is your real name, is it? Could be, I guess. Oops. So John is asking, what are your thoughts on when to start and go into advanced DAX? What should I know and understand before going to advanced DAX? So I'm not sure. I would question, like, what is advanced DAX? It's very relative. For somebody, using Calculate is a huge achievement. Like, wow, I use Calculate. For somebody else, kind of filter, understanding filter context, row context transition, that's a huge step. That was a big breakthrough for me when I understood that these are such simple concepts. I mean, earlier I used to be scared of them, really scared of them, and my measures wouldn't work, and I'm like, oh my God, I think I have to think about filter context. And then, I was, when I understood that, I'm like, really? That's what it is? Shit, that's simple. But it's like cycling. That's what I say. So that one is relative. And I'll tell you my boundaries. If I have to use summarize, I look it up. But guys, I have this kind of 80-20 or push-pull approach that I call. So 20% of the stuff gives you 80% of the results, right? And that's what I try to teach in my course. Give you 80% of the result. Give you the best bang for the buck. And that one, it's best to go through a structured course. Now, you don't have to go through my course, but it's best that somebody just give it to you. But the rest of the stuff, you can Google the shit out of it, right? So you can always kind of, once you understand the basic concepts, it's so easy to pick something new up. It's not a big deal at all. So that's where kind of my boundary is. So I look that stuff up whenever I have to use it, and it's pretty rare. Often, and frankly, sometimes... I would say some people who use advanced DAX, they're doing stuff which I don't recommend. Like, they would use union to tables, when I would say, well, why wouldn't you do your cooking in the kitchen, which is the query editor, and append? And there are very few scenarios where you'd say, oh, this is why I can't do it in the query editor, but mostly you can. So So let me think about your question again. Yeah, so I think advanced DAX is relative. What I will say is, I'll quote my brother. So I was talking to him about something and he said, Avi, there are 2 good times to plant a tree. 30 years ago and today. I found it so funny. Right, so obviously if you had planted a tree 30 years ago, then it would be bearing fruit now and blah, blah, blah. It would be like tall and strong and good, right? But if you didn't do that, then start now. So DAX, start now. And you know, who cares about advanced shit? I mean, you know, just make it work. Just solve some real world problems and use whatever level of DAX is needed for that. Get the concepts down first. I had another thought around this. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, gosh. Warning. I think if anybody is using quick measures, I'll say I call them quick measures are a quick way to nowhere. You can't learn DAX through quick measures. It's just terribly bad idea. You can do this, but as long as you're happy with living inside quick measures and not being able to change anything outside of it, then these are good. But the first time you're gonna need a small change, like but that's not quite what I want, and it's not in the list, you're gonna know DAX, and this is a very, very bad way. It's just, sorry guys, I mean, I'm not gonna mince my words. I mean, it just is a poor, really bad way. So Excel, and that's the thing which catches a lot of people. So in Excel, you could learn it formula by formula, or you could learn by example. You could look at somebody's Excel spreadsheet and say, oh yeah, okay, I see what you're doing. Cool, now I know a new trick. Unfortunately, DAX doesn't work that way. So watch out for that. Quick way to nowhere. And that's registered trademark. Nah, just kidding. Okay, cool. Let's see. Wow, you guys have some really good comments. Let's see. So Dick is saying, I'm uncertain why you're not using DAX measures to come up with the results in Excel and then publishing the results to Power BI if the data is coming from Excel anyway. Good question. So let's talk about that. So 5425. So I think this is related to our earlier exercise where I was working with AJ on the measure. So Dick is saying, hey, if you have data in Excel, there's Power BI inside Excel. And guys, I don't use the whatever terms Microsoft is using right now. I mean, it keeps changing. It was query editor, and now it's like get data and transform, whatever. I just call it Power BI. There's Power BI inside here. Here's the query editor, right? Which looks the same as Power BI. And there is this data model, which is the same relationship view and DAX and so forth. So you could do that. You could do all of that. You could do Power BI in Excel, you could do that, or you could do it in Power BI. So a Power BI desktop. So how do you choose? So I think of this as authoring tool, and then of course, if you've heard me talk about it, we're going to talk about where do you publish it and how do you consume it, right? What are your reporting tools? And these are 3 different things. For your authoring tools, what are the choices? You could use Excel with Power BI. You could use Power BI desktop, or what else could you use? You could use SQL Server developer tools. That's kind of the Visual Studio-ish, SSAS tabular level. Is there something else? Maybe there's something else. I don't know. Publish, you can publish to powerbi.com. You can publish to SSAS on-prem. You could publish it on Azure in cloud. Analysis services, could you, maybe there's some other spots, right? And then reporting tool is where you create visualization. And the best part is that you can have this one authoring tool. And of course, you want to publish to one place so that it's a single source of truth. But you can choose as many as you want. It's not an either or choice. You don't have to pick a visualization tool. By all means, use Power BI. Use the Power BI reports and dashboards. They're amazing. And use Excel. Oh, you can connect Excel to Power BI, to the model. Heck, use SQL Server reporting services. Heck, use Tableau, whatever you want. So in here, so what Dick is saying is that that becomes a question of which authoring tool should I use. And guys, I'll say I highly prefer Power BI desktop, and I'll be candid, I don't work with Microsoft. Man, Excel kind of crashes on me from time to time, and Power BI desktop maybe does that once in a rare while, which is so amazing because Power BI desktop it's it's kind of getting monthly updates, so it just feels a lot more stable. And yeah, I just like it, but it's a matter of personal preference. If you use Excel as an authoring tool, by all means. I love Excel. I'm a huge fan of Excel, and that's there. So that works too. And here's the kicker. Once you publish it, the end user is not going to know, and they're not going to freaking care, right? I mean, who cares? I don't know. I mean, I don't know what you use to create a model. My reporting tool can still be Power BI, still be Excel. So good discussion there. Let's see. So Boyd, yeah, you can't keep up with your comments. Let's see, where did I leave it? Okay, what else are you guys seeing? Okay, James. Yeah, so James is talking about a video course. Yep. So guys, there are tons of courses out there. Hey, whatever works for you, yeah, whatever works for you, whatever kind of floats your boat. And I'll admit, when I started out, I was scared. I was like, who's gonna sign up for my course when there's already so much training out there, a lot of it free. But of course, I have kind of a different take. You've heard me. I focus on the community. I'm really trying to focus on kind of building that community of rock stars, and I focus on doing. I say, yeah, my course is good. It does routinely get great reviews on YouTube and inside my classroom students. But I try to support. There's such a big gap between learning and doing. You can go take the best course, and then you go back to your data set, and you're scratching your head, right? Where's the help there? So that's where I try to help my students. But yeah, whatever works. The key is to move forward. Please don't just, if you're sitting on the fence and like, oh, I'm not sure about this. Come on, guys, now's the time. Okay.
Avi, I have two questions.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Sorry,
is it possible
who's
to
talking?
control?
Is it AJ?
This is AJ.
Okay, yeah.
Is it possible to control the grid line size in Power BI, or is it by default?
I believe so. I mean, I know I've played with not that much, but even if you go to table style, I think some of them, like if I do condense, what does that look like? Okay, well, let's just try a few other ones. Yeah, look at that. This definitely increased the size, right?
Other one, which is there in the view, show grid line.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Sorry, show grid lines. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see it here. Unless somebody else knows, I would say probably not. Yeah.
Yeah, because when there are more tables or more data,
yeah,
to arrange it more easier, the best way.
Oh, yeah.
Grid line.
Yeah. So I'll share with you guys this tip, hot off the press. This comes from the guys Mike Carlo and Seth Bauer at PowerBI.tips, and they got a great site and so forth. But I'll share with you some of the stuff that they shared in our last meetup group. So for one, they let me go align view. How do you align stuff?
It's back again in view.
Format.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Format.
So align. So let's say align left. Add the quick access toolbar. Align. What else is there? Let's do distribute. Okay, so man, and he made it look so cool. Okay, so he adds them to the quick access toolbar, and another tip, he removes the save button, removes this one, removes the undo and redo, because you have keyboard shortcuts for that. Control S, Control Z, and redo. I forget what redo is, but now that he has this one, then you hit Alt. And notice how this lights up and it's saying 4 aligns left. So you go 4. Oh, wait. So I'm going to select these 3. and I'm going to hit Alt 4, and it aligns that, and I'm going to hit Alt 5, and it distributes them kind of vertically. Did that part make sense?
Yeah, that's a really good feature. Thanks for that.
Yeah. So and of course you can, whatever you think are the best ones. So again, he gets rid of these ones, and you can have up to 9 here, and it still works effectively. And he just flies through building the desktop. I mean, he would drop elements there, and then he would do kind of Alt 1, Alt 2, and it's like, you know, it's kind of aligned. So yeah, so he will just kind of put the first element there, and the others can be anywhere you want. And boy, I'll do it again just because it was so cool. So Alt 4, Alt 5. Oh, wow, that was neat. And if you want to check it out, let's go to their site. Oops, sorry, wrong one. Wrong window. So we'll write this down. So this was... they have this amazing thing called layouts, where you can download a PBIX file in a specific layout and just then add your own elements to it. So and it's all kind of pixel perfect. These guys have worked hard to make sure everything is aligned and kind of looks beautiful. So yeah, check that out as well. That may give you a really fast way to start. And if you figure out your favorite layout, you can just where did that go? You can just stick with that and use that to create more reports. And then they also have this theme generator, so you can use the layouts, but then put your own theme. And what that's going to do is it's going to give your own color palette, your own font, if you want, your own font sizing. So yeah, so clearly, man, these guys are like doing stuff which I wouldn't even think about. So pretty cool stuff. All right, great. So, hey, yeah, if on the phone, if you have any questions, well, that's the advantage you guys have. You can just unmute yourself and talk anytime. So, I'm sorry, folks on the phone, it'll be easier if you just talk to me. I have too many chat windows. There's like YouTube and the chat window. So, unmute yourself and talk. So, I do see that Tyrone, Steve.
Hi, Avi. Actually, I'd like to know how can I do multiple relationships between two tables?
Okay, that's a good one. Let me write it down. Woohoo! Where did my stopwatch go? Oh, there it is. So wow, we're in the 1 hour mark, 104:31. How do we create multiple relationships between two tables? So I know, well, obviously you're in the course, so I can point you there. So I'm pretty sure it's there in the course. We'll see. Relationships. Oh yeah, there we go. So this has actually two solutions. One is that you create two relationships and then activate them using the use relationship function, and the other is you actually copy the table. So yeah, so go look at these ones, 3.8 and 3.9. But I'll give you a really quick primer. So in here, let me just skip ahead and see. I need a diagram view. There we go. So if you look at this one, relationships. So if you typically create two relationships, or do I have three in this case? If you create multiple relationships, the problem that happens is one of them ends up with this dotted, which is really, that means that the relationship is not active and it doesn't make any difference, doesn't have any impact. But you can activate that using this calculate and use relationship. That's one approach. And the other approach is to make a copy of the calendar table. So now if we have like order date, ship date, then you can have, let's see if we can find that. So Dairon, is that making sense? Or?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I haven't got to that module, so thank you. I guess I will get there. I already tried myself. I already got the data relationships.
Oh, yep, that's right. Yeah,
so,
and you.
And I guess that your first approach will be the best. because the second one, I guess, it will increase the size of the file itself, right?
I like how you're thinking. Yeah. So guys, I get a real kick out of it about not just knowing that there are 3 different ways to do something, which is always true in the Microsoft ecosystem, pretty much, Excel or Power BI, but being able to weigh the trade-offs. And often it's not that one way is right and one way is wrong or one way is better. Often it's about the trade-offs. So here, there's a trade-off, and I talk about that trade-off as well. So yeah, so first approach, I would agree. That's typically how you want to do it. But what happens with this one is that, let's say you have 50 measures, and even in a really, really small model, I end up with a lot of measures. In a production model, I've had like 600 measures. And if you bring in something like this, now you have to sometimes define new versions of all of your existing measures. So if I have sales year over year, blah, 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 all of that. And now you suddenly have to say, oh my God, I need new measures. I want to copy all of them and new measures which activate this relationship. So that's the downside of this approach. So typically this only comes into play when this happens late in the game. When you have an existing model and you have already defined measures, and then you say, oh, now I need to have another relationship between these 2 tables. So what do I do? In that case, it could be easier to just copy the table. And in this scenario, you don't have to redo the measures. The existing measures work. So that's the advantage of this approach. But yeah, it leads to clutter. It leads to, it increases your size. Although usually lookup tables are not that big, so it doesn't increase size that much. But yeah, so check it out and give it a try. And see
okay,
how
Avi,
it works.
thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you. So guys, yeah, on the phone, if you have any questions, I'm looking at the YouTube chat and I get lost in there. So you just unmute yourself.
Hey,
Julian.
Avi, it's Steve.
Hey.
Hey, just a quick question, not too technical, but what are your thoughts on having a model? This gets back to the custom calendar one. A model that has 2 calendars in it. One, say the ultimate calendar.
Got it.
And then a second calendar, which is sort of has custom calendar fields, such as and I'm using like an ISO calendar that I found online.
Yeah.
And because I've got a situation where I personally like the custom week over week type of analysis, but there's people in the organization that aren't used to seeing it that way, and they're more traditional month oriented, but which I don't think gives you an accurate picture, but that's the way they want it. So I have 2 calendars in there, and I can kind of look at things both ways, but there's a lot of fields, and it can be a little bit confusing at times, I guess. Some of the fields wind up with the same name if you don't change them.
Yeah.
Like you could have 2 date. They come from a different table, but
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So
voided, you think?
Yeah. So somebody else, I think Michael, was asking about the ISO calendar as well. So I'm just trying to see, what does it look like? Oh, okay. Boy, yeah. So got it. I think I have an idea. Yeah.
Yeah, that file that I uploaded to OneDrive has got it all in there.
Okay, let me see.
But I it might be more than people want to hear on this call.
Okay, let's take a look. That's a good question. So it looks like, from the little bit that I saw, that ISO calendar I would call what I call, in my terminology, custom calendar. So a lot of calendars, let's call the other one standard, and this would include often what people call fiscal calendar. And the key thing here is a month is a month, right? So in a standard calendar, obviously January through December, January is January. January is January 1 to 31. December is December 1 to 31, right? And sometimes companies have fiscal calendars where the start is shifted. So Microsoft had the year started at July 1. I've heard it start in February. I've heard it start in October. It doesn't matter, right? So start is shifted, but a month is still a month. So January is January 1 to 31, and so on and so forth. So those ones you would absolutely just, you just need one calendar table. But it looks like, and I think I have your file open, and I'm going to go in calendar ISO, perfect. So in here, calendar ISO, date key, year. Yeah, so this one, I can.
There's a field out way to the right that says period, which might be useful.
Yeah,
that sort of corresponds to like a month.
Got it. But if I look at period 1, that can have like 2 different months in a standard calendar. Is that right?
Well, yeah, it could.
Yeah. So
it could even be in different years.
Yeah, so I would call that a custom calendar.
Oh, for sure.
Do you keep a separate table? Let's explore both paths, right? So let's say, so if you have a custom calendar, then let's say we combine it into one table. So for one, I have to say that I'm kind of leaning towards this, because if you think about it, all of this, so you've heard me talk about it, that, let me go to this model.
I think just for ease of creation is why I had 2.
Okay, fair enough. But let's just go here. Yeah. So you've heard me talk about that, how this is the data table, and these are the lookup tables, and the lookup tables are the who, what, where, when, how. Right. Fair enough. And what I was going to say, gosh. So in that sense, calendar table isn't really any different than customer or product or territories. So for a little bit, let's think of calendar like we would think of customer, right? So in customer table, we have a key which identifies a unique customer. In a calendar table, we have a key as well. It can be your date or whatever variation of date, but essentially a date like 2018 39, that's a unique key, and that identifies it. But then what else do we have in customer? We have the attributes of that customer, like what is their name, where do they live, what's their phone number, what's their age, all of that stuff, right? And in the same way, calendar, we have date, and then we have attributes for that date, just like a customer. Yep. So if you had 2 different data sets for a customer, maybe there were one system which kept attributes about their, I don't know, the home address, and another had office address, it would feel really weird to keep that in 2 separate tables. So from that perspective, I feel like we should put it in same, because the date is the key, and then you can have whatever other attributes which define, oh, this date is calendar year 2018. Oh, this date is ISO year 2019, or something like that. So I think from that perspective, I'm leaning towards one. And of course, if you have those 2 tables, it should be a pretty simple query editor. Just merge it based on the date, and bring in all those fields. Now, of course, a side effect is going to be, this is going to be, gosh, a really wide table. Yeah. It's going to have a lot of columns. So now that has several impacts. So for one, maybe you use some kind of a naming convention, and often I would use a prefix. So that's just what I would use. You can use a prefix. I like prefix better than suffix, but I don't know, like just could be simple as ISO or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I have.
So you could use that. If you were using Excel, you could also use perspective. So let's talk about that a little bit. So again, this scenario may not apply to you, but maybe it'll apply to other folks. So at Microsoft, we had fiscal year, and most people worked just by fiscal year. So they would, yeah, I mean, finance, certainly. Finance, like, hey, we have budgets for a fiscal year. We don't even have a budget for calendar year. Why do I want to care for calendar year? If I would talk to finance people, they would say, don't ever show me, Avi, just never show me calendar years. I just want to look at fiscal year. But then there would be other teams, sometimes marketing or something like that, where they worked by calendar year because they were trying to work with other parties a lot, and the rest of the world mostly works with calendar year. So they would only want to see by calendar year. And a lot of other groups wanted to see both ways. Sometimes they're working with external parties and say, you know what, I don't want my partner to see fiscal year. It's not going to make sense to them. So I want to show calendar year, but when I'm working internally, then I show fiscal year. So what we could do in Excel, and actually even in SSDT, but don't worry about that now, is we could carve versions or give windows into the model, and I could give a window, I'll just use the name perspective. So I could create a perspective for my finance folks and only give them the calendar table fiscal calendar fields. They will never see the calendar, the regular calendar year fields. And do the same for marketing and just give them calendar year. And for the rest of the teams, which use both, unfortunately, they will see the whole table. So that was a cool option, which can simplify things for your audience. But I do want to go to option B and talk about two separate tables. So for one, you certainly do need to follow naming convention. You talked about how, when I have, this scenario, two tables, there is actually one legitimate scenario, which actually goes back to Dairon's question. So Dairon was talking about multiple relationships, and if I go back to my course, in this case, I do end up with two calendar tables. And as I talked about, that this is legit. I mean, there would be scenarios. There are potentially multiple relations. There we go. Right? I mean, look at this. I have two calendar tables, calendar and ship calendar, but you notice how I do with the names. I said I like prefixes, so I just name. I never have like two fields with the same name. It just gets too confusing, and I think you've discovered that, right? So if you go that route, certainly naming convention is you got to follow the kind of a naming convention, prefix, suffix, for one of those tables at least. What could be the advantage of this? Well, in some sense, it's cleaner because you can, yeah, in some sense, it's easier. If you're only looking at fiscal year, you can say, okay, I'm going to use this table. Yeah, but yeah, it's kind of a personal choice, I think. I would say I'm leaning towards combining it. Yeah, I'll let you choose.
Yeah, I think I didn't think about using the query editor to merge them. Initially, I had these were not tables or calendars that I was creating. I was copying them from other sources, so they were prefabbed. But yeah. But I just don't like the idea of having like a field named date in two different columns. Yeah. So I agree. It's either you use a prefix for every field or combine into one.
Yeah, I mean, even if you combine it, you're right. Combining into one could help things. I mean, at least date wouldn't. There would just be one date. Right, in both calendars, date is date.
Yeah, and in my case, there's a lot of fields in there that I probably don't need. So I don't have to have I don't have to have something that's 30 columns wide.
Yeah, and so anything which is ISO, I would prefix it. So if there's ISO day and week, well, actually day and week is the same, and that's a bad example. But so if there's like an ISO month or ISO period, I'll prefix everything and then just leave the rest kind of standard. All right, good stuff.
All right. Okay, thanks.
Great. So hey, lesson learned. I know you guys were asking me in the chat box, so I will announce it beforehand earlier. Actually, let me make a note here. Just speak up. I won't see your chat. So on the phone, just speak up. Let me go back to my YouTube friends hanging out with me.
Hi, Avi.
Hey.
This is Bill McNair.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I was trying to catch the name there.
Okay. All right. That's good. I'll wait.
Go ahead. Did you have a question? Thought? Comment?
I do. We talked the other week about about specific types of graphs that had a date attached to the x-axis, And I've done some work on that, and looked over what we had talked about before, and I think I have so I've gotten past a few of the issues, but I still have one or two issues that I'm curious about. I just simply have not been able to find an answer. Maybe there isn't one, or maybe I just don't know what to Google to find the answer. So I'm Googling you for the moment.
Okay. So is it easier for you to show me? We can have you present.
Oh, much easier. Much easier. Yes.
Okay. So guys, I always joke about this, that to find information on Microsoft products, you often use Google. Okay, we can see your screen. I'm looking at a real good looking dashboard. So tell me.
So if you remember last time, you have a fellow who you feel is the best with graphic information, and one of the charts that is his you showed us last week, which was years versus months versus days.
Yeah. So guys, he's talking about Stephen Few. Yeah, he's a god for me. And I'll have to look it up. What's the name of the chart? If somebody else knows on the phone, just speak up. But continue. Yeah.
Okay, so I've figured out the formulas and figured out how to present this graphically using a whole bunch of shortcuts, and I'm not necessarily completely happy with it. For instance, in order to get the scales all the same for the annual versus the monthly versus the days, I had to force the 900K but if the data set changes, this will it may not necessarily look right. Things like that.
Yeah,
but
scale is wrong.
So you can see that that each one of these graphs, this is the years, this is the months, and this is the days. Is using average X, sum of revenue, average X by day to get these numbers. And so this goes 2016. This goes the last part of 2016 plus January 2017, and then daily beginning February. And that's controlled by these date controllers up here. And in that process, I figured out that how to where is this thing here? No, that's not it. I figured out that I can turn off on a page. I can turn off all the relationships that would be affected by this, and force this to be here, only on this one. And so it's turned off and on, and all sorts of things. It's kind of fun. But the issue is that this is a stupid way to do this, because it's just so complex and makes no sense whatsoever. And all I need is, so if you take this thing and you look at the visualizations here, you can see that I've got a field here. Oh, wait a second here. So I've got a field here. So on the x-axis, I've got year, month, date. And I'm only, I'm really at the moment, I'm only using the date. And then I have, the value. So to get the value, I got the value sitting over here on the value. But what I want to do is I want to have set up as a constant one date. Okay, I want to have this date, 2017-02-18, set as a constant. And then, rather than having this stuff here, which is impossible to try and work with, I want to feed it a formula that says, these in this particular graph, the formula should say, give me the most current date plus the, on the x-axis, the most current date plus the last 13 dates as well. or however many I want. In this case, I've got 18 selected, and I can reselect them here. But I want one formula. Then I want the next formula to say, okay, we've gone back so many days. Then start with months and go back, another so many dates. And I get months here. It can be in days because I get months here because I'm controlling the fact that I want months on the x-axis by the fact I've got a month here.
Got it.
So the thing is that I want to feed it is the date range. And I don't know, I just can't figure out how to separate the date range, how to do that. I mean, I can get it to add up over the date range, but I can't get it to have the dates separate.
Okay, so hey, I'm gonna grab back presenter. Let me know when you can see my screen.
I can.
Okay, perfect. So we have, I'll bring up what we had discussed in our course. Oops. And files and gosh, I should name my files better, but I think it was this call. Let's see. So by the way, I looked up and the display is called foci display. I don't know if Stephen Few came up with this. He might have. He's just brilliant. And how do we set dates for this display kind of automatically? So
see, Avi, I can see.
Yeah, the screen is not shared.
I can't see what you're typing.
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad you guys spoke up. So yeah,
there.
Stephen Few multi foci display. Oh, I'm not typing there. What am I typing? Let's see if there's a good image. Oh, there it is. Yeah, perfect. Oh boy, this thing is so beautiful. Oh boy, this is, so this is what we were talking about, guys. And so it shows the recent data in a more granular level because you want to see more detail for what's recent. But, going back, I only want to see by month. And then going further back, I want to see the year. And it just looks so amazing. So let's see if my file came up. I think it did. Is it this one? Oh, yeah, multiple guys. So I don't know why we had two. Oh, this was the 4-week period. So notice here, this is not hard-coded. This is using the Ultimate Calendar. And Ultimate Calendar is has all of that built in. So it has, let me show you. So everything is by offsets. That's what the concept is used. So it knows wherever offset is 0. So when current month offset is 0, that's the current month. And sorry, this model is dated, but Ultimate Calendar would refresh automatically. So it'll say, yep, this is my current month. And you can say, oh, give me the last 3. And you can do the same with the year. You can do the same with day if you wanted to. So in here, we simply had, so this one we were saying current month offset. Now I don't quite have a current day offset, but you could add that in the calendar table. So that would be 0 for, let's say, March 9th, and it'll be -1 for March 8th, and -2 for March 7th, and so forth. And then you will say, hey, current day offset is between, I don't know, -1 and -30. That would give you your last 30 days. But in here, we just use current month offset, and then same thing here. For this one, we said, give me the current year offset is 0, and current month offset is less than 0. So essentially give me the months before the current month. So this is giving the current month, and give me kind of year to date before the current month. And if you go over here, you would, it'll just say current year offset is less than 0. So, gosh, I should have captured a screenshot of your screen. So that's how I would drive it. I would drive it based on my calendar table, but it sounds from what you're trying to do, you might need to build a few more offsets. Like in the last week, the one that we talked about, current week offset. So does that approach makes sense. That yep, if my calendar had these markers in there, I could just use them and use them as a visual filter.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that isn't that isn't a solution. In fact, I looked at it, and the only issue I was having was trying to figure out how to get that that offset date a little bit more easier than looking at data, because all of my data sources are, unfortunately, they have different stop and end. So what I really wanted was just to encode that offset information. I mean, I can't figure out how to create what, visually. I'm having a lot of difficulty figuring out how to write a DAX formula that gives me back a table of dates for that time period that fits into an x-axis graph. I mean, I get what you're saying here, and I know it would work, but it's not it's not the exercise that I wanted to resolve, which was how you write a DAX formula that throws the calendar up into an x-axis.
Yeah, got it. So let me make sure I understand the problem. So this approach is and you're not going through the DAX formula just because it's fun and you like to kind of go into that, but you said something, which is I have a mix of data with different kind of end dates, right?
Yeah. So and also because I want to explore, I may not necessarily want to explore the most recent time period, beginning with the most recent time period. What I may want to explore is back 2 years, or again with this interesting graphic kind of average per day thing, but not necessarily.
Yeah. Got it.
Or I may want to set it so within the context of a Power BI report that has many of these kind of things where for a specific store, for instance, where I have data that's from 3 weeks ago. Every graph that is dependent, that needs to have the most recent information for that store, is conforms to one date that I set.
Understood. I got it. So let's do this. So I'm gonna stick this graph here, and we're gonna make it freaking dynamic. Let's see. So we'll go back to
without slicer. The thing is to get away from those stupid slicers.
Yeah, let's see. So let's say that we have this one, and right now it's showing current author 0. Okay, so this data is 2016, I think. I forgot. Yeah, it's 2017. Anyway, well, this would still work. So we have this, and so I'll keep this one, and maybe this one I'll clear the filter. And then we're gonna have a date selector here. Oh boy, yeah, this is gonna be interesting. And how do you say this is a single value? Oh. I think
if you use date, you'll get a drop down. There's a drop down there that allows you to get value between a couple of other things.
Well, I actually just want to do a single value. Let's see. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. I think there was a way to just say, well, there we go, single select. Okay, I give up.
If you throw in date instead of year.
So if we go date and okay, let's just go with this. So what if we said 11/15/2017 and 11/15/2017, and I Got it. So we got that, and now of course that does horrible things to us. Got it. So let's go here, and I'm gonna define a new measure. Oh boy, is this gonna work? So date. Man, this is a hard problem. Let's do this. So we need 2 calendar tables for this. I'm pretty sure. I've dealt with this problem before. So yeah, you're not the only one. But let's say if I duplicate it or I reference it. Let's just reference it. So calendar selector. And let me just keep just date. I don't think I need anything else for now. And I'm blanking on who was I talking to earlier? So we were talking about Steve, yeah. So we said that there shouldn't be 2 columns with the same name. So I named it something else, select date or something like that. Boy, that is a good one.
Okay, I see where you're going with this, Avi. This is exactly.
Yeah.
So except I couldn't figure out how to get the. So when you do this, you know, and then you bring out that smaller calendar.
Yeah.
The issue becomes, well, how do I make sure that the dates that are in the other calendar, but not in this smaller calendar, don't get jammed up into the blank spaces, et cetera, et cetera.
Let's see. We'll go step by step.
This is a good idea.
Yeah. But so the first thing is, I have struggled with this before. So when we are showing items on axis, right?
Yeah.
And if it's filtered out by a filter, I did the same thing. You start thinking in DAX. You think you can solve it DAX. As far as I know, it's unsolvable in DAX. And I'll show you a quick demo. So here's what's going on. So if I have calendar and if I have year as a slicer, right? So I have all the years over here, but if I do year and filter as well, so watch the slicer. And in here, if I say 2018, watch what happens here. It goes away. Those values are just simply not available. Doesn't matter what DAX you concoct, select everything, all on date calendar. It just doesn't matter. It's never going to show. So that's the first problem we solve. Now let's solve the next one. So we have the selected date, and we're going to say, let's do a new measure. And I'm going to do a new folder for my measures. And I'm going to call it underscore formulas. Load. Yeah, I think I might have picked this trick from you to put the underscore so that it shows at the top. So underscore formulas is there. I'm going to hide this column. Who needs this? And then I'm going to define a new measure.
So.
Okay, what happened here?
So this is so I think I'm following. I couldn't connect the constant date with that calendar that you're creating.
Okay, sorry, my ribbon stopped working. Let's see. Let me just restart it.
So this is pretty cool, though.
Yeah. I remember running into this, and I scratched my head on that axis thing for a while till I just gave up. I'm like, okay, that's not doable in DAX. But yeah, we create a separate table, and obviously the table cannot be related to your data. It just has to be separate, because if it's related and the relationship, well, as long as it stays active, it is going to filter your dates and you're going to get nothing, I think. Yeah, so, okay, guys, come on. So Naveen has a few ideas on dates in period. I think, Naveen, you're probably a few steps ahead of me. Okay, so we're here, modeling. Oh, gosh darn it, the ribbon somehow stopped working. I don't know how to solve it. Maybe I restart. Power BI desktop all together. I have like 3 things open. Sorry guys. And oh, okay, weird. God, the ribbon is working. So now I just have to say that, oh, don't give me all dates, just give me some dates. And often I work in tables, not graphs. So you've probably heard me talk about the 3 concepts. I'll write them out here. Where I say, like these 3 structures. Maybe that was too big. So first one is what I call working, I just call it pivot. Usually it's a table. Working pivot, debug pivot, and what do they call it? Reporting display pivot? I don't know, reporting pivot. So this is how I may show my end result. But usually when I'm writing my measure, I don't care one bit about that. Usually I operate in a working pivot. And usually it's a table in here. In Excel it's a pivot table, hence the name. And I would have my structure. And you saw me build the measures earlier, how I was doing step by step. I forget who, for AJ, when I was building it step by step, that was my working pivot. I had no intention of showing that in my end report, but that's how I work. And then when things go wrong, then I do a debug pivot and where I really filter down and looking at one thing. So yeah, it looks very different. So those are the 3 structures that I use. So I'm going to park this one for now. I'm going to focus on this. And let's just say date. So I have all these dates, and I'm going to make it a little bit smaller so I can see what's going on. I will say for my calendar year, where did my year go? Give me only maybe 2017, maybe 2 months or something. Let's go month. So I heard this from somebody else that the sort by column keeps going away, and I don't know why it's happening, but yeah, it happened to me because in this model it should have had that. Let me fix that really quick. Calendar.
Avi, did you know that you could fix the sort by without going to the data tables? You can do it right in the right on the screen.
So
just to highlight the.
I would just do this and sort by column. Perfect. That's great. And let's do kind of maybe 3 months or 2 months. Let's just do 2 months. We could even do 1 month. Heck, let's just do let's do 2 months. Okay, yeah, let's just do 1 month. So we have November, and okay, good. And I'm gonna save it, make it a little bit bigger. So I'll say values. And now I'll say, so yeah, Naveen was saying dates in period. Let's just try it. How do we know it's in the last 10 days of that? We subtract it. I think dates in period. So Naveen, thank you. I think dates in period is my friend. So let's just give it a shot. So sales in period is equals to calculate sales and dates in period, and dates, this is just my calendar table date column. That's usually, well, that's I think always the first parameter of any time intelligence function. Now my start date is actually the selected date, so we'll say selected value from my select calendar select date. So right, it's coming from that, and then I want to go 10 days back. So this what did I do wrong? 10, okay, day. So this, I don't expect this is going to give us the right result. Let's see, but this is still a good step. Now let's add this guy in our table and see what it does.
They just give you some of those time periods.
Okay. What do we need? Dates and period. Maybe we test for it. Maybe we test. So what if we say is empty? We just say is empty this table. Dan. Hold on. I expected this one to work. Let's see what is a selected value. So we'll say selected value, selected date. Date equal to selected value, select date. Okay, so that is the right date. Don't think your selected value is a single date. Yeah, no, selected value is a single date, so it's coming from this table. So I have that, and then I'm doing. Hey, go to this calendar. Oh, I think I know what's going on. Dates.
So one question, Avi.
Yeah.
I like the issue. So I'm tracking you completely, and some of these things may even be kind of fruitful. But what I kept arriving at was that even if I was able to, manufacture this, or manage the range that I wanted without slicers of dates, with slicers, I couldn't take that as a measure and use it in the x-axis directly. That was the issue. So, but I like where you were going, and
so that's not the approach. So the approach is that if the measure only returns when it's supposed to return, and otherwise it's blank, you don't have to do anything on the axis. You put your calendar date on the axis, but of course, where it's blank, it's not going to show that. Does that make sense? So let me try this. So let's say so we'll say sales for 2018, and we'll say calculate sales, right? But I will say calendar. Oh shit, this is gonna work. Calendar. I want year. Calendar year equal to 2017. We don't have 2018, and I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we need it. We'll see if we need it or not. But calendar date. Let's just throw it in. Let's try this, right? So Control 4, and if we have, let's try one more of this. So instead of the date, we will say the month year. Oh, perfect. Okay. So January, February. So this is showing all of them, and then you go to the new one, sales for 2018. Let's see what that shows. So notice how it's only sales. I named it wrong. Sales for 2017. Notice that how it's only lighting up for 2017, and when you take that to a graph, it does the right thing. So we'll switch this to a graph. Come on. Oh, there we go. So we'll go, and so notice that right now it's showing all dates, but that's because we have both measures. The moment you take this off, boom, look at the axis. So it only shows you what you want. The axis is not to be worried. The axis is month year. Axis is the calendar thing. If the measure is smart enough to just blank the value out when you don't need it. Does that make sense?
Yes. Would you hover over your measure? Would you put the measure up in the...
Well, yeah. So this one is obviously just a contrived example. I don't think it gets us closer to that mark. Actually, maybe it does. Oh my God. Let me try this approach. Let me try this exact same approach. Okay, so I'm gonna actually copy it, and let's say sales in period V2. So we'll say sales in period V2, period V2. I'm still not happy about that dates in period. Actually, let me take another look at that. So we will squirrel this away. Actually, maybe I'll put this on a separate thing. Okay, good. So this one is good. Let's come back here. And okay, Sean. Let me go back to sales in period. So it's saying go to the calendar table. Okay, I'm there. And then, ooh, I need to filter down 2017 November. Go to the calendar table. Okay. And then find this one, selected value. And I know that that one returns this. So, okay, so go to 11:15 and go -10 for day. But that doesn't work. Let me just try. Let me just say max of this. Would that gonna work? Nope. Max only accepts a column reference. Oh boy. What is it doing? I'm thinking maybe. Let's try this. Calculate this. All calendar. What is going on? I'll take this offline. I mean, I think we're close. Yeah. So
I think we're close too, and taking it offline is fine. I appreciate your work on this.
Yeah.
That one that you had that seemed to work pretty well because it restricted the dates.
Yeah.
I'm still haven't been able to capture that formula. Okay. Would you just save this thing so I can look at it again?
Yep. So this one is.
Thank you, Avi.
Yeah, this one is along with all the other files that we do on our student calls. Okay, so guys, you got a challenge. We'll see. So I'll solve it offline. Let me go to YouTube. Dates between. Yeah, I think we're so close. So I think Trevor was asking about my course. So the course enrollment is closed right now. And I would recommend just go to learnpowerbi.com. And if you click on course, that will let you sign up for the waitlist. Right now, the date is March. So that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, and guys, I like doing that because that way, when it's closed, I can simply focus on my students and community, just kind of helping out rather than all of that. So. Yeah, I'm still thinking about Bill's problem, and it sounds like Naveen had a lot of comments, and Sounds like if I could get Naveen on the phone, we'll probably get it solved. But let's go to that stuff. The table. Okay. What new messages? I don't know. Okay, I don't see any new comments. So, folks, if you have any questions, ask away. What I'll do is I'll check, and a lot of you pre-submitted on the Talk Power BI show. Let's say if we can take a question from there. Tanya is asking. Let's just put it in our notes. So we'll say at 1:57:17. Tanya. I should close this one. Our data is not in the cloud. We use Power BI on-premise and publish dashboards to Report Manager. I think she means Power BI Report Server. At least that's the name I know. We would like to know if there's a possibility to use mobile app with on-premise without data in cloud. So I think the answer for this is, boy, I'm going to pull my mobile app. And I'm pretty sure that there's an option, I think, to connect to a report server. What is this stuff? Reporting services. You can't, but she's on-prem. She's not in cloud. So I have to see report server. SQL Server reporting services. Oh, well, no. So here's what I have. And I wish I could take a screenshot. Can I take a screenshot of this? Oh, that worked, I think. Okay, hold on, guys. Let's go. Sorry, I'm working on it on my phone. Oh, wait, no. Oh, there we go. And there we go. Finally, got it. So yeah, so on my phone, it says you can connect to a SQL Server reporting services or Power BI report server. So both of those are possible. I'm gonna maybe save that for her later. Okay, so we were able to answer that. Can mobile app connect to reporting on-prem reporting services or report server? All right, folks, so let's see. Yeah, so Javed, like me, is stuck on this problem. I'm still stuck here. So the problem is not that it's showing for the 10 days, but it's showing it's like when I said is empty, why is it? Oh, you know what? Maybe we need values. I just want something that returns true for 11.5 to 11.15, but is false outside. So it just says turns it off. I think my brain is kind of fried right now. It's it has happened before. Sometimes I get off the call and I solve it. But you guys have seen the problem. If you solve it, by all means, kind of post it in Talk Power BI and put it there. So the idea there is that we have a selected date from a disconnected slicer in this case, right? Disconnected table. And we just want to if 11:15 is selected, we want to light up 11:05 to 11:15. Light up. It means something that returns a valid value. For now, I don't even care what value. Just true or false would be good. Earlier. Yeah, earlier. I'm not even sure. We don't have an X function. We don't have earlier. Yeah, we don't have a row context, I think. Probably. Anyway, so I'll table that one. It's yeah, I'm done with that. So I don't see any new comments on YouTube. If you guys are on, what happened here? If you guys are on, and if you have any questions or you asked a question in the Talk Power BI group, let me know, and I'll go to that. Otherwise, I'll probably answer these offline. Yeah, there have been quite a few. But if you're not on, then, I don't want to. Okay, I'm going to give you some time. Let's just look at one other one. You know what? I'm going to, what my mobile app shows. There are options to connect to both Power BI report server. So yeah, again, folks, I'm just gonna wait a little bit more for your questions, and then we'll call it a day. Oh shoot, what does that learn more link go? I'm trying my app, okay. Oh, wow. Woohoo! Okay, answered one. Let's see what's going on Facebook. So Trevor, sorry, I just see question marks. I know you were asking earlier about enrolling in the course. Well, yeah, so the best option right now is if you go to learnpowerbi.com. If you click on that, it'll let you join the early bird waitlist. That way you're going to be the first to know when it opens up. So I open enrollment, the next enrollment window, I'm thinking like late March. So hopefully that helps. Okay, so Trevor's got a good question. Ultimate calendar table, can the end date be dynamic? It absolutely can. In fact, I updated for my class, but I forgot to update it for the public version, because the version that's out there has stopped kind of working because it stops at 2017. So I do need to update that. So thanks for the reminder. Let's just stick that in there. So 204.52. Yeah, we crossed the 2-hour mark. Awesome. So the longest live I've done is 7.5 hours. I don't think we're going to approach that, but, hey, we're over 2. So Trevor is in the... you know what? I'll just copy it. Okay, Joe has a question. I'll get to that. So Joe, I see your question. Let me... Okay, let's take care of this. In your ultimate calendar table, can you make it dynamic? So you can make it dynamic in 2 ways. So I'm not sure, guys, I forget. Sometimes I record a series of videos and I put some of them on YouTube. But so this is how I usually operate. When I'm recording a series, so for the calendar, I would record like 7 videos and I release it right away inside my class. But I drip them out in YouTube. So sometimes I take weeks, sometimes I take months, because depending on what's going on. And sometimes, well, I would say often, you don't get all the videos in YouTube. So Ultimate Calendar, a lot of them are on YouTube, but this may not be. So you see here, I do have a chapter, a video on using a dynamic date range, like how do we kind of automate it. And I'll show you one example. So you're going to see some of my file structure and realize that I'm a bit of a back rat. To the course bonus, mini course calendar, And I will make this file available to you. I will update the file, but you will have the solution here too. Well, it is an M expression, Trevor, but that means you can have it be anything you want. So there are two approaches to making it dynamic. One is, of course, you can just tie it to the current date. You can say that, oh, if the current date, so I'll show you what I have in my model. I have it gives me the end of the current year. That's how the updated one is operating. So let's look at that first, and then I'll talk about the second approach. So calendar. So notice here, so start date, and you can see start date is hard coded. So actually one way to change it is just change the hard code. Just go in there, type an M, and you can change for the end date. You can just say, you know what, I want 2018, right? So I'm not doing it because this is start date, but yeah, you can change it. That's one way of doing it. But to make it dynamic, I'll show you what I have now. Notice that I use a function which just says, wherever I am right now, whatever is today's date, just give me the end of the year for that. So what it does right now is March 9th, end of the year is December 31, so it's going to give me that as an end date. So again, I mean, it just depends on what you want. Another scenario, and that's what I cover inside my course, is where the end date could depend on your data. It may not have anything to do with today's date. I don't care what today is. What matters is what is the date range for my data. Maybe you work with historical data. Maybe you're a researcher, and sometimes you're working with a data set from 2010 to 2015. Other times you're working with a data set from 1998 to 1989, whatever. And yeah, you just want it to be based on that. Then you can, of course, instead of this function, you would just grab it from your data. So that's one approach if you need it. And calendar table is kind of like a gift that keeps giving. So I have 8 videos inside my class already, and I'll show you my oops, what did I do? I didn't delete anything. Let's see. Okay, I'll show you what I have for my to-do list. It's crazy. How to handle, and this is all usually comes from my students. How to handle time, that's a good one. Year-to-date, month-to-date fields, trade-offs. Yeah, I wouldn't read through it. Custom calendar, the 445 calendars we were talking about, ISO calendars. So more is coming. Calendars is definitely a deep dive. Okay.
So, Avi.
Hey, Bill.
Spillman there.
Yep.
Okay. So this idea of having the date, the calendar that you were talking about.
Yeah.
Say, so it's a managerial problem, but let's just say that the dates of the information that I have varies by store.
Yeah.
So
wait, so what varies by store?
The date for which I have information.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's say that I create a little table in Excel because most of my data is coming from Excel,
mm-hmm.
And that has the name of the store number 1, store number 2.
Got it.
And then it has a column that has a date in it that happens to be the date of the last piece of information that I have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got
and
it.
So I load this little, so it'd be like 10 stores by 2 columns, and one column would be that end date. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So now I load that with data query, into my Power BI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I create a date calendar.
Okay.
That. So can you just go through the steps that I would need to do to create a date calendar that is, I could have 2 columns, one that's a start date for the data and one that's the end date. And so then I'd create a little date calendar that I could use, I guess.
Yeah.
But it would be a dynamic in the sense that within the data query, I would be feeding in that one date for the beginning date and that one date for the end. Can you just quickly do that?
Sure. So, of course, for one, I mean, I think there's a simple solution for this, right? So earlier, the dates in here were hard-coded, and you can also go with that. So let's talk about that. And for one, if you have varied data sets, and in a large model you inevitably end that way, put 100 years in there. Who cares? You know, start at 2000 and end with 2100. Yeah, right? You know, put 100 years. That's still going to be a small table. Calendar tables don't get that big. It's just 365 times 100, right? So that's a simple option. Just hard code the thing and just make sure you go pick a big enough date set. So that's a simple solution. And if you don't like that, then here are the steps that would be. So you would create an append query, and where you would append all of these store 1, store 2 to store 10, and then you would do find that this is all in the query editor. You would find the minimum of date and the maximum of date, and usually I don't cut it off on a specific date, so I would say find so I would say beginning of year of the minimum date and end of year for the max date. That's how I would do it. And end of year of this, and then just put this where I have the start date and end date. You know, so in the formula you would just say, you know, use that one. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, but I was thinking more in terms of. So I'm creating a specific calendar for a specific store.
Why would you do that?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, so think about calendar as a customer. Now think about calendar as a customer, right? So calendar table isn't much different than all these other lookup tables, right? So it's just that they are the who, what, where, when, how. So what you have is an entity. It's a real thing. So think about, imagine if date was a person. January 1, 2018 was a person, right? And then they had attributes. So yeah, why would you? So imagine if you had different people here, like store 1, you had a people key, right? And people key, this was like people key is 1, right? First person, and this had a people key of like, I don't know, 23, and which was Bill, and this was Avi. Would you create separate kind of people, a customer table? No, you wouldn't. Yeah, so separate calendar tables doesn't make sense. Calendar is like is an entity just like customer, who, what, where, when, how, and it's not much different than the other folks. So yeah, I would say single calendar table, same way you would create a single customer table. Did that make sense?
Well, it doesn't.
Come on. Tell me, there's some resistance. I want to hear what's going on. What are you thinking?
Well, again, it's like, how do I throw that logic onto the x-axis?
That one is super easy. So we've already seen it in action. When the data isn't there, nothing shows up on the axis. So if you have 100 years in your calendar table, but your store 1 has 30 days of sale, nothing else would show up on the x-axis. Right?
Yeah, so I'm getting, but how do I, so say I have a 100 day set, but I only want to look at the middle 10.
How do you define middle 10? So that's kind of a human thing, right?
Okay. So date number 50 through 59.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can select that in page level filter using advanced filtering, right? You can say 2050, whatever, right?
Well, but that's so I'm. So I'm just trying to avoid. So I'm trying to avoid all that because I want to say, well, so here's my end period date in the end graph, which is days, and so I want to pick the most recent. No, I want to pick the 18 days or 20 days or 25 days or 10 days.
Yeah.
Counting back from the one date that I've selected.
So that is a separate problem which we couldn't solve, right? I mean, that doesn't have anything to do with how many years you have in your calendar table. Let's assume you have 100 years in a calendar table. That's, I mean, once we solve this one, then you select a date here, and it will be relative to the selected date, right? So that has little to do with their calendar table. Calendar table can have 100 years.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, you're right, and
well, yeah, I know. This is probably this is definitely bugging me. So we'll solve that, and we'll be good there. Okay.
All right.
Okay, let's go to Joe, who had a question which I missed, and I definitely want to cover that because I forget. Are you in my course? If you're in my course, then you can dial in. But anyway, I got your comment. On-prem gateway. I'm not sure I can answer this. So I think Joe is inside my course. If you are, thank you, Joe. Yeah, I'm pretty sure now. On-prem gateway. Is there any logging available on the server? Yeah. I wonder. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. This is a good one. I can ask the Microsoft team. So I asked them, my friend. Okay, let's see. Oh yeah. Okay, got it. Yeah, so maybe we add offset days to the ultimate calendar table. Why not? We'll add it. What? Offset days. I'm pretty tempted. You know what? Maybe we'll do it on this call. Okay, so Trevor has an excellent question. Guys, I'll say I'm kind of tapping out a little bit. Okay, so Joe is a she. Sorry. Okay. Thank you, Joe. I wasn't able to answer. Yeah, I'll get back to you. I'll ping Microsoft. That's what I said. If you want to have slicers on 2 date columns simultaneously, 2 date columns simultaneously. Is that possible? So I feel like I'm missing the context a little bit because when I'm reading it as is, it seems like, oh, that's so easy. Let's go to one of these guys. Why are you doing this? Yeah, so okay, I got it. Well, let me bring this model up and okay, now I get it. Hey, thank you for the context. So that's great. Do I have that one here? I think I can create it. Oh yeah, perfect. So we have ship date. This is connected on ship date, and this one is connected on order date. So if you want the slicer to on one of the fancy columns, well, so obviously if you do one at a time, so the typical scenario when people have something like this where they have order date and ship date, then the typical scenario is the shipping division wants to see things by ship date, and maybe the sales division wants to see it by order date. So let's go with that scenario first, and then we'll go back to the next one. So of course, for that one, it's really simple. I think I have sales by ship date. Oh yeah, sales by ship date. So I'm gonna say, so I'm gonna show you the measure, but I'll show you the data. So date. And values is 15. Yep, why not? And date is, I want to change the format to, what's a good format? Well, I'll go with this. So we have sales and sales by ship date. So notice that sales is based on order date. Maybe I could have been more specific in my measure, sales by order date, but that's the default, so I left it there. That's what my assumption is for my business, AdventureWorks, that by default it's by order date, but then I have sales by ship date. And of course I'm showing it by day, but you can show it by whatever you want. Anything from the calendar table. So in this way, you can, and so now you can have both views, this or the other, and you can filter it by whatever you want. So I'll go back to my calendar table, and if I say year, and if I say, let's do month here, I like that one. So if I say 2017, oh well, 2017, 2016, notice how these totals are different, because obviously ship date is not the same as order date. So by ship date, for ship date is in 2016, the total is 16.1 million, 144. But where order date is in 2016, it's 16.4, and of course that goes for anyone you want. So you can see the data either by order date or by ship date. I don't know if that helps, but I'll raise the stakes a bit. Right? So because the way I read your question, and I don't know if that's your scenario, but slice on them. Well, you are slicing. So if you don't want to see by dates, I mean, again, that's my kind of working pivot. You can display it however you want, right? And make a card out of it. I don't worry about the visuals. Take the dates out. This is showing you. I do have a slicer. So slicer year here, slicer month here, and so you're saying Trevor, I'm not wanting, yeah. So you don't have to. You can show whatever you want. The slicers work. So if you use this measure, sales by ship date, they're showing you by that. Sorry, I know it's hard. It's hard with the comments. So maybe I'm missing some context, but I'm gonna try my best. So you said I'm not wanting to view those dates. You don't have to. You can do it by. You can view it however you want. So if I say July, August, September, so you can slice by that, and this one is by ship date, and if I build the same thing over here, that's one going to be, and probably I would want to make it a different color or something like that. Let's make this guy a card. And I'm going to say none, and this one, let's do a background color. And this one is, what should shipping look like? Maybe I say shipping is purple. Right, so this one is by order date, and this one is by that, and yeah, you have your slicer there. So if you want to show it by ship date, Okay, so Trevor saying, but could these tables themselves act as slicers? I'm not sure. Let me read the rest of it. But I want to slice on one date column being less than X and other date column in ABC. Okay, fair enough. That's a good challenge. So, so this is kind of the plain vanilla. But Trevor is up in the stakes. Let's go. And slice by 2 dates. Oops, I forgot to write this one down. Did I write it? Oh yeah, I did write it. Perfect. So in here, we're showing some data. Let's say sales. And we want to say something like, I'm going to use just a simple text box. Okay, got it. This is awesome. So let me clear this, and I'm gonna go into my debug mode. So what if we said, so I'm gonna do something really simple. And what if we say the order date is between January 1 and January 10, and the ship date is January 8th. And I already know the answer for that, so let's try that. Got it. Okay. So we want to filter by that 2 sets. How do we do this? I think you need a copy of the calendar table for this one. Pretty sure. Yeah, so you have to go with the second approach where you have 2 calendar tables, the ship calendar and the other one. So let's go do that. So calendar, duplicate or reference? That's the question, my friend. We'll use reference. Ship calendar. And oh shoot, I already have that. Ignore that. Okay, go back. So we have sales, and again, let me do this. So let me grab this. So in our experiment, and of course, in the end, it's going to be arbitrary, but for my purposes, right now we're saying this is order date, and this is the ship date. Order date and ship date. Ooh, how cool is that? That's a good example. I love it. Trevor, 2 dates. I'm already thinking of if I do a video on this, what kind of wordplay we'll use. Double date, something like that. Let's stick that image in here so we can reference it. Okay, so we have that reference. So let's do 2 filters from our order date. This is our order date. Yeah, so I'm using Zoom It for my screen annotations. Okay, so I'm going to dive in. I may not look at your comments. So if I go astray, sorry, I'm going to come back and read your comments. But I think I got the problem. But if I go astray, I'll come back and look at your comments. But so this is our order date. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a title and make sure I call it that order date, and we'll make it like huge. No, it doesn't have to be huge. And I'm going to say January 1, 2014 to 1/10/2014. So we have that. And then, oh boy, this might be, oh shit, I realize this might be trivial, at least if you do 2 tables. And I feel like that's the way to go. So ship date and the slicer, and ship date is 1/8/2014 to 1/8/2014. Oh boy, so sorry. I was getting more excited than I think I needed to. This one is trivial. So wow, this was mind blowing though, because if we go back to what I was talking about earlier, I forget who I was talking to, but I think it was Dairon who had asked that question, and we had come to the conclusion that this approach. So let me go back to the chapters and the relationships. And there were two approaches. One is to use relationship and an inactive relationship, and that works great in some scenarios. And I had said the other one is only for specific scenarios. And the scenario that I had used was when you have an existing model and you bring in like a new relationship. But clearly, I think this is a good one too, because if you want to slice and dice it kind of independently. Yeah, it's just a copy. It's just a copy, and I rename everything. That's all it is. So I'll show you my ship calendar. So for ship calendar, all I do is I reference my original calendar. That way it's coming from the same source. So notice the first step is, I just reference my calendar. Let's go with that. And then I just rename every single column because I don't want two columns with the same name as date, year, and quarter. So I just prefix something. That's it. And then I connect two of them. And then you can kind of slice and dice and say, yep, order date is between this and this, and ship date is between this and this, and yeah, this is, you don't need anything else. This is it, and it's ultimately flexible. You can put in whatever you want in here. How about let's say 12/1/2014, and of course, and if I clear this, then the answer is 6.4 million. But if I say no, the ship date needs to be between 3/1/2014, yeah, you can. Did that work? And oh yeah, that did work. Okay, now let's say 6/30/2014. Yeah, it just gives you that answer. Wait, what did I do wrong? 6/30/2014. Yeah, there we go. All right, guys, that was really cool. I'm gonna sign off for now, but that was really fun. So my coach, my life/business coach, he has this statement which I love, and you probably heard from me. And he says, I think it's from Socrates. So, but anyway, I've heard from him, and he says, the quality of your life is determined by the quality of questions you ask. And I love that, and that's kind of cool, I think. But I do know that the quality of this call, Talk Power BI, is directly dependent on the quality of questions that you guys bring. And I had fun today. So that was cool. I don't know the next state of Talk Power BI, but of course, if you're in my class, then we pretty much meet weekly, except for kind of holidays and stuff, holidays and travel. So yeah, we're going to hang out inside the class. All right, my friends, thank you so much. All right, thank you. Thank you, Bill. Take care, guys.